Hello, everyone. It looks like people are starting to join us. Welcome to this Hunger Free Communities quarterly webinar. Really appreciate having you with us today. I'm Minerva Delgado, and I'm the Director of Coalitions and Advocacy at the Alliance to End Hunger. We certainly appreciate you joining us today. We're just going to give folks a minute to pop in. And while people are joining, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see today's agenda. All right. So again, we're just waiting for a few more people to join. While we're waiting, you can see the agenda on the screen. We're going to be joined by Beyond Hunger and their Client Advisory Council. And I'm sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So I'm going to stop that share and find the correct one with the presenters for today. Hopefully you can all hear me. My screen froze while I was stopping my share. Okay, I think I'm back. Apologies. My screen froze there for a minute while I was sharing. But I'll go over the agenda with folks and put it in the chat. We have with us today Beyond Hunger, as well as the Montgomery County Food Council. And so really happy to have them join us today. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat for everyone. All right. Welcome, everyone. So we'll just go ahead and, out of respect for everyone's time, go ahead and get started. So this is our quarterly webinar. We would normally have this in June, but with all of the activity around the White House listening sessions, we decided to push this to July, and really appreciate those of you who can't join us today joining us. We certainly appreciate your time. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with Beyond Hunger. So I'd like to introduce our panelists from Beyond Hunger, and also just let you know why we invited them. So Beyond Hunger has a client advisory council, and I know many times in this setting, questions have come up like, how do we really better incorporate people with lived experience into our work? And so we thought it was a great opportunity to invite Beyond Hunger and their client advisory councils come in and talk about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and any lessons that they can share with the rest of us around doing this work. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bree Kellogg, Manette Bariel, and Tracy Showers. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead while we're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and highlight you all for everyone. Spotlight you. And actually stop spotlighting you. All right, wonderful. Take it away.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for having us come to kind of give a recap of what we had discussed way back in the spring at one of the Hunger Free Community Summits. We were thrilled to present at the summit of what we were doing at Beyond Hunger with our Client Advisory Council, and we are encouraged to kind of recap what we've been up to since then. It actually, looking back on it, we've been quite busy, which is great. So not always do you realize what's going on when you're in it. So it's actually really good to kind of recap it for ourselves. So for those of you that do not know who we are a food pantry in Oak Park, Illinois. We've been around for 40 plus years, and we serve 13 different zip codes within our county. So we're one of the larger food pantries in our area. We serve a very vast array of people with different needs. And so we not only give food for our food pantry, but we're also lucky to have registered dietitians like Brie Kellogg here on site to help with our programs, not only nutritionally, but also making sure nurses come in for blood pressure checks and just kind of getting a well-rounded look at our clients that we are serving. We are also fortunate to have started a client advisory council, and the client advisory council, which Brie will talk about briefly in a little bit, really has given us an opportunity to look at all of our programming in a different way, to make sure that we are doing the right things by the people that we are serving, and making sure that their needs are being met. And if they aren't, how could we serve them better? So really, our Client Advisory Council has really enabled us to kind of make our programming step forward into kind of what's going on in the world right now, especially since a pandemic. So as you see on the screen here, our mission statement of harnessing the power of communities to end hunger. We create solutions to end hunger at every stage of life, as I was just talking about. We have comprehensive programs for emergency food for families that are in need. We serve kids during the summer with our summer meals program. We are able to do a home delivery program for those in the community that cannot come to our pantry themselves. And we have local partnerships with different organizations that help our pantry really serve our clients in the right way. As you'll see on the screen here, and as Minerva has done, we will introduce ourselves. So Brie Kellogg here on my right is our nutrition education coordinator and registered dietitian. I think she actually has some other initial stuff behind it at this point. She's been working hard and studying hard. To my left here is Tracy Showers, who is a Client Advisory Council founding member. So she's been with this council ever since the beginning. And she's had some great opportunities this last couple months that she'll talk about a little bit. And then I am the volunteer talent and inclusion manager here. So part of my work is with the volunteers, but also with the Client Advisory Council.
So I'm just going to take just a minute to talk about how we started our Client Advisory Council. And that happened about 3 years ago. If you were on the session with us in the spring, you might remember that we were thinking about bringing this nutrition analysis tool into our food pantry in 2019, and it would really change all the processes of the food pantry from top to bottom. And so from a staff and board of directors perspective, we all thought it was a great idea to do this, but we really wanted to hear what our clients, shoppers, program participants thought about this idea. So we brought in some of our STAR students from our cooking classes and our nutrition education classes to come in and give us their feedback on what they thought about this new nutrition analysis tool called SWAP. The feedback was really great. We discovered that these voices that we brought in were really vital to our organization. And so that was kind of the birth of the Client Advisory Council. So since that time, we have met formally each and every month, and it's become an integral part of our organization's growth. And we've also noticed that the council has become not just a voice locally, but nationally as well regarding hunger rights. And so part of our organization is that we strive to meet the needs of our community with dignity and respect, and including these voices of our shoppers and program participants is very important to that process. So next slide, please.
So we want to just give a little bit of a timeline of what we've been up to since we kind of began with the Client Advisory Council. So as Ray had just discussed, in the fall of 2019, we had a program assessment committee. That was actually what we called it before they actually formally gave themselves their name of Client Advisory Council. And so from there, in the late fall, in September to October 2019, we actually had the formal survey, the first #1 survey, very comprehensive, gave us a lot of great feedback. And so from there, we started to really look at the points that we needed to change that really came back from the feedback and then analysis of that survey itself. And then in November to December, we actually went into the community and talked at our food distributions to our program participants and clients about what the results were. And we had great feedback from that. I think it was very appreciated that not only did we reach out to our clients and program participants, but they got feedback, so they knew that there was going to be change around the way, that we were working to make things better for them. And then in 2022 or 2020, geez, long time ago. And so in February, we did the second survey. We just went right back to back pretty much with it. And we looked at some of the smaller things that we wanted to talk about, and more about the client choices that we were giving our program participants, whether it be how much produce, or was it the variety of proteins that we were giving them, or what could we facilitate in a different way for them as we were purchasing food for them. In April and May of 2020, the CAC helped launch the online nutrition education program. So with the change with the pandemic, previous to that, we had been doing all of our nutrition education live at our food distributions. We had food demos, and they would get little cups of the food that we prepare that morning, and we would talk about different nutritional things, or there'd be recipes at the table. Dietitians would be on site to talk to and to really make sure that we're connecting with the community. With the pandemic, that then flipped. We had to figure out a way to make that live. And so we went ahead. And Bree, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yep. So we started doing our cooking classes through Zoom instead of in person. We made sure that we were reaching our clients through our electronic newsletter and through social media. I think in the start of the pandemic, social media became very important to a lot of organizations, just to keep people informed of what was going on. And so our Client Advisory Council was able to inform us on our best practices for those sort of situations.
So in May and June of 2020, we did another survey, and it was really around on how they wanted to receive the food. We were really toying with the idea of a drive-through. And so we proposed that, and we actually asked them if that would be a preferred method, or maybe online ordering, or do they still prefer to do something that is client facing, where they were actually coming in and choosing the foods that they would be receiving for the day. And then we started some wellness checks with the Client Advisory Council. We actually chose 100 clients out in the Austin community that our Client Advisory Council actually made house calls. We wanted to see how people were that weren't visiting us on a regular basis anymore once the pandemic started, and we wanted to make sure that they knew that we were open. That we were still serving our clients.
And then you'll see in 2021, our work got a lot more robust. We did another survey early on, and then some of the highlights for me in summer of 2021, our Client Advisory Council was able to meet with Joel Bird from Hunger Free America, the CEO. They started meeting with Westside United, which is a local organization here on the west side of Chicago that its goal is to decrease hunger and bring healthcare throughout the Chicago population. They also started creating bylaws, so we're really formalizing our processes and becoming a real organization within an organization. So that was great. Next slide, please. Thanks.
And then in 2022, where we are today, we started working on the recruitment materials and how to, we had our core founding members and they were so dedicated, but we knew that we needed more voices that reached to different communities that we served and different programs that they were engaged in. So we kind of started talking about that process. And then our Client Advisory Council, with the help of our CEO, Michelle Zorkowski, really wanted to start to kind of educate our Client Advisory Council in a different way. So we were giving them opportunities to learn theory of change. They then went to the conference in a couple different conferences in the spring. So it was really, it was kind of a shift for us. Before we were always asking them for advice and what their needs were and things like that. But now we are starting to kind of flip the coin a little bit and start to think about like, how can we give them more information about food insecurity and from more maybe a government or a policy standpoint so that they could help us even more. So some of the things that they've done since that in the winter of 2022, started talking with the Village of Oak Park in their climate action plan. And then Tracy here was able to, in the spring, in June, she was part of the Talking Conversations that is going to be part of the White House conference for health, nutrition, and health that will hopefully be in September of 2022. So we were very honored. Joel Berg sent us an email and said, can you please, with your Client Advisory Council, have them send in some information? And Tracy here was chosen out of our members that participated in that response. And she'll talk a little bit more about that. It was a whirlwind. It was exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking to be on such a large platform. So we also, and Bree has been integral in this, in the spring of 2022, in this year, we participated and still are participating in the Northwestern University Food Pantry Survey, where it's a series of meetings right now as they develop the survey, and she'll talk a little bit about that. And then hopefully this summer, we're going to be doing a membership drive in this month into August. And then hopefully in the summer, we will have more activities going on. Some of the activities kind of pop up and we're able to engage, and some of them are our goals that we've set for this next fiscal year. Next slide, please. Go ahead. No,
Okay.
go ahead.
So moving forward, we're going to talk about just some areas of focus for our Client Advisory Council. You want to talk about advocacy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as I had said, with Tracy being part of the White House Council on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health, we hopefully will be part of that come the fall. So she was able to engage in the talking sessions in the Midwest region, which was really amazing to do, to not only prepare for, but to really hear her side of a story that she actually hadn't shared before. A lot of her family history, and it was just really, really incredible to hear that. We will also hopefully be part of the Anti-Hunger National Policy Conference in the spring of 2023. We are continuing doing work with the Village of Oak Park for their sustainability survey. And as I had just said, the Northwestern Food Pantry and Health Food Access Research Study is still ongoing. Next slide, please.
So we are very active in developing new programs as well for our organization. One of the ones that I'm very proud of is that we're going to be starting our Healthy Ambassadors program, which basically focuses on nutrition education and educating some of our community and program participants to become health ambassadors in their local community with a focus on diabetes and healthy cooking. So about 5 to 7 of our program participants are going to go through this extensive training process to then become health ambassadors to their communities. And our Client Advisory Council is evaluating our modules and self-assessments for those participants, those future ambassadors. They'll also be helping with our fiscal year 23 client survey. And then a new series that we're bringing on, another new program, is our Food for Thought series. That's just a lot of thought-provoking materials on the anti-hunger world. Next slide, please.
So one of the things that, as I had mentioned just in one of the previous slides, was really focusing on program and community presentation. So that is making sure that our Client Advisory Council is out in our communities, not only regionally, but nationally. We do know that through our surveys and the work that the Client Advisory Council has been doing, this work does matter. What we've seen in the changes in our programming has really made a difference. We get feedback from our clients, and our Client Advisory Council is such an important part in that. They are the people that meet our people. So, they're able to talk to our clients because they have participated in the program. They have been with us for quite some time in different programs. And so we look to not only make the Client Advisory Council bigger and more wide ranging as far as who we have on our Client Advisory Council, but we hope that we can kind of reach out even a little further into how we are helping our communities. Next slide, please. I just want to, hopefully that gave you a lot of information about what we've been doing, but I would like to spend some time to reintroduce Tracy Showers here as our founding member of our Client Advisory Council. And we brought her on specifically because her story of what she's been doing with the Client Advisory Council since the very beginning is so important. But also what she was able to achieve and what she was able to do by speaking at the White House talking sessions. So Tracy, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Again, I'm Tracy Showers, and I am a founding member of the Client Advisory Council. Back in June, June the 3rd to be exact, I was invited by Will McGinty, which is the Associate Director's Office of Public Engagement. I hope I got that right. I received a call, which I missed the call because, as you know, you don't answer numbers that you don't recognize. So he sent me an email, and I was so excited because to do something on such a global scale, I had never done before. So I was excited, and it was exhilarating to be asked to just speak at the listening session. So I didn't want to talk off the top of my head because I didn't want to be stumbling and that type of thing. So I did write a 3 to 5 minute speech, and I was able to tell my story of how I struggled with food insecurities at one time, and just my thoughts on food. I am a missionary at my church, so being able to help and serve people is what we do, and that is my second passion. My first passion is writing. I'm a published author, but my second passion is the people. I love helping people. So to be asked to do this, to speak at the listening session was very exciting. I told them about how back in 2010, I had to go on disability, and how I had 2 kids at the time, so how I struggled with food insecurity, not having enough food, worrying about how I was going to get through the month. So I got to speak on that issue, and just to let them know how I got through it, basically, and how I got through it was with food pantries. In the beginning, it was embarrassing to have to go to a food pantry when I've been supporting myself since I was 16. And I get to a point now I have to go to a food pantry, and my thoughts about food pantries was just being uneducated about what they really serve in the community. But once I came to Beyond Hunger, that whole aspect changed. I've been participating with Beyond Hunger probably since 2014, and I've not only used the food pantry, but I utilized the other services. And then I started volunteering, which was a big thing for me because, again, I love people. So about volunteering and using their services, when asked to be on the Client Advisory Council, to me, that was right up my alley because that's what I do. That's my passion, is what I love. So I was grateful to be asked and to help other people out there. And I prayed and hoped that telling my story to the listening session will give other people the encouragement to do the same and to utilize the food pantry and not think of it as just someplace you're just forced to go because you're down on your luck, but it's also a stepping stone, and it also will help you get through with what you're going through. Help feed your family, which is most important, help feeding your family. And Beyond Hunger not only as a food pantry, of course, they mentioned, but they also do other things. They help with Medicaid assistance, Medicare assistance, the ride share, the what is it? Public transportation and so on. So there's a lot of other resources that they provide. And if they don't provide that particular resources that you're looking for, they will find the resource for you and get the information back to you. And that's what I love about them. And I'm not only saying that because I'm on the council, but like I said, I utilize the service beforehand. So Beyond Hunger was my lifeline. They actually came through for me, and they've always been there for me. I'm diabetic, so when my sugar get out of whack, I'm in trouble. So I mean, there's just a lot of resources here that's available to the people, and that's a good thing in the community, because sometimes our community lacks. So when our community lacks, they're there to help, and I just appreciate them so much, and I appreciate what they offer. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I want to just open up our I think we're stop sharing here. So I just wanted to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that presentation. This is Minerva, and Tracy, kudos to you. Thank you for stepping up and for speaking out. We really appreciate that, and appreciate your leadership in the role that you've been able to play there. So anyone who has a question, please go ahead and raise your hand. I'll unmute you, and so that you can speak, or you can always type your question in the Q&A. All right. Well, while we're waiting for people to think about their questions, or maybe to find the raise hand button, I do want to suggest also, in terms of opportunities for the future, our conference is again in November, and we'd love to hear from your Client Advisory Council, having had the experience of going through the September White House conference, to maybe talk about what they thought went well, what they had concerns about going forward, and just kind of, so we're accepting workshop proposals now, so definitely put us on your list of places to speak in the fall. All right, so any questions? I don't see any hands up. So we can always come back if we need to, but thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So we are going to move on to our next presentation. And so Montgomery County Food Council, who we've heard from in the past, but one of the interesting things that I think one of the things is very interesting about this group, and that makes them a little bit different in the space, is that they have a mandate from the county. The county has a food security plan that they are working with the county to help implement, and as part of that, they have a community advisory board. And so we thought that this would just be a really interesting piece of work that you all would want to hear about. And so we have Allison Schnitzer, who is joining us today to go ahead and share about what they're doing there at Montgomery County Food Council. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight you, Allison, and thank you so much. All right, so you can take it away.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. You're absolutely right. It's exactly what I'm here to talk about today. My name is Allison Schnitzer. I am the Director of Food Access Initiatives at the Montgomery County Food Council. And I'm here to talk about our county's food security plan and how it was the genesis for our for the Food Council's Food Security Community Advisory Board. So just a little bit about our Food Council. We are a nonprofit organization and we serve as the primary connection point for businesses, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents around all food system issues in Montgomery County, Maryland. We bring together over 2,000 local partners in the community-wide education, advocacy, and capacity building initiatives. And the backbone of our work is really our 4 working groups. So we have one for food recovery and access, one for food economy, one for food education, and one for environmental impact. And they are led by our Food Council members, and they are open to the entire community, so anyone can be a part of them. Each of these working groups develops work plans and works throughout the year to execute them. And our mission is that we build an equitable, resilient, and sustainable local food system through collaboration, transformation, and cultivation. And our vision is that we envision a vibrant and equitable food system that is healthy for our community, economy, and environment. So our food security plan in Montgomery County came about because it was legislated. Our county council passed a bill back in July of 2016 that said that county government, in partnership with partners in the community, including nonprofits, needed to develop a food security plan by the end of the year. So the fall of 2016 was spent developing that plan. And then the food security plan was released by our county executive in the beginning of 2017. It is a 5-year strategic plan, so that that means that we are in the last year of it this year. However, right kind of in the middle of it was COVID, so that was a big. It really actually presented us with a huge opportunity because it was an influx of a lot of funds to put a lot of the things that were in the food security plan into action in order to meet the food security needs of our community members. So one of the things that came out of the food security plan was a new tool that was developed by our county government called FoodStat. And this was a way of using a variety of data sets, including poverty rates, free and reduced price meals at schools, SNAP and WIC participation, transportation access, and a whole bunch of other public health data sets to determine where food insecurity was highest within our county to help direct the efforts of our work. And you can see in the map here, if you're not familiar with our county has a lot of wealth. We are just outside of DC, but there is a tremendous amount of disparity within areas of our county that are highlighted in the dark pink in this map. And the food security plan also found that there were certain populations that were more at risk for food insecurity. Children, especially children who relied on school meals. And so then during the summer and on weekends, they were at high risk for food insecurity. Seniors who are living below the self-sufficiency standard in Montgomery County. The self-sufficiency standard is very high here. It's a very high cost of living. So living on a fixed income like many seniors do does not provide enough money for them to buy food. People with disabilities, also we have a very high population of foreign-born residents and residents who live in families that have mixed documentation status. So some people in the family may be eligible for federal nutrition benefits such as SNAP, and some may not. And then just not having access to transportation. Again, we have a high cost of living here. So just even if you don't fall into one of these groups, just the overall high cost of living could make it so that you were ineligible for food assistance programs, but still not having enough money to buy food. Oops. And then, because of how COVID really caused a big influx of resources into our food security plan, and how we really needed to sort of shift focus, we kind of did a reassessment of our food security plan, where we did a community food access survey in 2021. And this was sort of designed to measure how was our food security plan addressing our residents' needs during the pandemic. And we really found that, especially among our Spanish language respondents, there was a much higher concern about running out of food before and after. And there was a really large increase in concern about food since the pandemic, and there was a much greater need for assistance, but not a lot of resources or knowledge on how to access that. So our Food Security Community Advisory Board was really born out of our food security plan, because, as the food security plan was developed, community voice was essential in the development of it. There were listening sessions, there were surveys, there are many different ways that the public was engaged, particularly people with lived experience with food insecurity. So through that whole process, it became obvious to everyone in county government and to us, the Food Council, that there needed to be a permanent way to solicit and capture the lived experience of our community members and get their thoughts and perspectives on all food security plans and their effectiveness, and really to help us identify the gaps that remained to be addressed. So the Food Security Community Advisory was born. It's housed at the Montgomery County Food Council, and since it's been going since 2018. The goal has been for our members to learn community engagement skills, and also advocacy skills, so that they can really help guide the implementation of the food security plan recommendations by the Food Council and its partners, but also guide legislation and government policies. So the Food Security Community Advisory Board is comprised of Montgomery County residents who are currently or who have in the past experienced food insecurity. We recruit them through engagement with all of our different community partners, such as our food assistance providers, other nonprofits, the local colleges, and other community-based organizations. These members have a strong desire to provide their critical insight and feedback to the Food Council on our food security plan and other food security related issues. Our members also advocate, they volunteer, and they spread awareness about food insecurity related issues in their communities. And this is really essential because they know their communities the best. They're able to bring the voice of their communities to us, and then we're able to provide, as we sit as the Food Council, having the knowledge of all the resources that exist in our county, we're able to give that to our community advisory members, and they're able to take that back into their communities. So the first cohort of the Community Advisory Board was started in 2019, right after it was formed. And each year we bring on new members and we keep some old members. So our 2022 cohort has 15 total members, which is the largest it's ever been. We have 10 returning members and 5 new members. And the Community Advisory Board, when you join the Community Advisory Board, you can join either with becoming an advocacy track member or an advisory track member. And the advocacy track members are really the very active, kind of a little more seasoned members, and they are going to develop an advocacy plan, and that's going to guide their efforts in engaging with elected officials and government agencies and their communities on food security topics. So they think of the area that they are focused on, and they already really know the areas that they're super passionate about. So some examples are food insecurity and health outcomes. There's one member who was very passionate about the nutritional quality that exists in food at food assistance providers, and really wanting to improve that, especially for people with chronic diseases. Expansion of SNAP access is a big one among our Community Advisory Board members. I have one community advisory board member who's very focused on transportation and how transportation affects the ability to access food. And then there's one right now, there's another community advisory board member who is a college student, and he is very focused on food insecurity and higher education and doing work around advocating for increased the ability for college students to get SNAP and things like that. Our advocacy track members, they do receive a $1,000 stipend for the year to compensate them for their time and their work. And that is really to acknowledge that they are putting a lot of work and a lot of time into advocating for these, really critical food security initiatives and changes within their communities. And we want to compensate them for their time and their effort. For the advisory track members, they do receive a $30 stipend for every CAB meeting that they attend, and we have our meetings quarterly. And our stipends have been funded by the Healthcare Initiative Foundation in the past. That grant is no longer available to our organization, so we are looking for other ways to fund our stipends going forward. And then here's just some examples of the advocacy activities that our members have engaged in. So they love contacting their elected officials, regarding the policies they care about. So they'll make phone calls, they'll send emails, they'll attend town hall meetings or roundtables, or they'll reach out to their elected officials, staffers, and they'll schedule a meeting. And they've been very successful at scheduling meetings with staffers, or actually even with the elected official themselves, because they understand, like we've really emphasized with them, that their elected officials want to hear from them. They don't want to hear necessarily from us as a nonprofit organization, they want to hear from the people in their district and the people who are living these experiences day after day. So we've really worked to emphasize that with them, and work to help them prepare to testify for any legislation that they are interested in testifying. Because again, when bills are up in the state legislature, for example, we know that those elected officials want to hear from the people who that bill is going to affect the most. They also really serve as resource navigators within their communities. So they will use their social media, or they will just make phone calls or send emails. They'll go to community, neighborhood meetings, and they'll share the resources that they have learned exist in our community for food assistance. And they're very effective at that. Some of them have really large social media followings, and people know to go to their Facebook page to find out, where the next food distribution event is, or where they can get help with their SNAP application and things like that. And they connect with our, we have over about 120 food assistance providers in Montgomery County. So they connect with those to provide resources there as well. And then they frequently attend webinars and conferences, so that they can always be learning about food insecurity initiatives. I get multiple emails a day from our community advisory board members. They're forwarding me some article they saw, or some conference they attended, or some webinar that they attended. They're so eager and engaged to learn and to lend their voice and really try to affect change. Oh, and one of our community advisory board members here, Vanessa Pierre, she was actually invited to the White House to speak to President Biden about the child care tax credit. And then she was interviewed on MSNBC about it. And she's a wonderful advocate. She's just incredibly effective at connecting government assistance programs with how they impact the people that they help. And she spoke so well about how the child tax credit that she received was able to buy her family, she has 3 kids, buy her family food that week, and that she wouldn't have to worry about how she was going to buy food. So this is just one example of how our community advisory board members are really able to connect their lived experience with the work that we're trying to do as a food council. And here's another one of our board members, Matilda. She's been a board member with us for a few years, And she says, I love advocating and the board helps me with the needed information for the most vulnerable, the poor and needy. The board helps me feel useful because being a member helps me impact my community and enables a healthy environment and growth. It also helps me improve my leadership skills through intellectual challenges and expanded networking to initiate the sport that is beneficial in my community. And then there's another quote here from Vanessa again, and she says, for me, being part of the Food Security Community Advisory Board means support. The opportunity to serve on the board allowed me to gain essential knowledge and skills that I can use to advocate for my community, as well as support with my local initiatives. I'm so grateful to have been a part of this experience and the invaluable connections I've made along the way. And then this is one of our amazing Food Security Community Advisory Board members, Rona Reese. She is very passionate about SNAP and very passionate about advocating for teens and adults with disabilities. She herself has an adult child with a disability. And we recently started a SNAP outreach program, and we're funded by our state to help people with SNAP applications. So here she is volunteering at one of our SNAP outreach events. And she has, I don't know if you can see in the picture, but she has a fake rotisserie chicken there as an example, because her main advocacy goal is to change the rules around SNAP so that cooked and prepared food can be purchased with SNAP benefits, since something like a rotisserie chicken right now cannot be purchased, even though it's a healthy food. It can feed a lot of people and it's inexpensive. Because of the current rules of SNAP, you cannot buy a rotisserie chicken with SNAP. So that is her main passion, and she calls herself the rotisserie chicken lady. And then lastly, I just wanted to share that the Community Advisory Board put together an impact report last year, where the report outlined some recommendations that they felt that our county should focus on in order to address food insecurity in our county. And so these are the seven recommendations that they had, which was to create more opportunities to grow the food we need in our own communities, address the lack of cooking equipment, expand food access to college students, expand access to prepared foods and other improvements to SNAP, utilize resource navigators within the community to connect residents with food assistance resources, identify and address transportation gaps, and facilitate opportunities for community members to testify or engage with elected officials. And that is all that I had. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Allison, thank you so much. And I'll ask folks to go ahead and raise their hands if they want to speak, either comment or question. But I will take a point of personal privilege and just say how thrilled I am with the progress that you all have made. Back in 2013, when I was the executive director of Manna Food Center there in Montgomery County, we started these discussions with the county and, really developed a coalition that would really push the county to do a food security plan. And so I'm just thrilled with the progress you all have made. And I see this as a key example to other local governments around the country. And my mission is to make sure that all of our hunger-free communities are asking their counties and their cities to develop their own food security plans. We don't have to wait for the federal government to do it. So kudos to you all and the work you've done so far. Team Beyond Hunger, no question, just agree that this is phenomenal work. Thank you so much. Any questions for Allison? All right, Allison, thank you so much. And also encourage you to submit a workshop proposal. I would love, I don't know if you guys have a toolkit, we can work with you to build out a toolkit for how to get other stakeholders like hunger-free community groups to really walk their counties through creating a similar kind of plan. So I just see so much tremendous possibility to expand the work nationwide. So thank you for joining us today. So we do have a few more agenda items, some news from the Alliance to End Hunger. And so not seeing any questions, I'll go ahead and ask Amanda to go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Like Minerva and all of you, I'm really inspired by the work that we just heard about, and it really goes hand in glove with some of what I want to update you on today. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Amanda Bankston, and I am a PhD student in public administration. And I'm really focused on how communities collaborate to create healthier, stronger, more resilient, more equitable communities, much like you all are doing. I heard a couple things today that kind of underscore why I'm doing this work. One, we can accomplish really amazing things through collaboration. And two, that meaningful engagement really matters. I really hope to learn more about how you're harnessing the knowledge of and the leadership of community and client voices like Tracy through your work. And so over the past few months, I've been working with Minerva and Sarah and their team to really ask a central question, which is how do you build and share knowledge about your work? So Minerva just mentioned a toolkit, and I know there's great resources around hunger-free communities. How do you use those? And the reason we're asking this question is because there's 50 plus years of scholars, nerds like me who study the great work you do, create toolkits, create studies, but how does that knowledge filter into the work you're doing? I'm surprised to find that much of it never reaches there, and there have been many informal efforts to kind of build and share knowledge. So the central question of this project really is how can we create research to fill the gaps and to meet you where you're at so that you have the resources and tools you need to adapt and lead in your communities. So with that, you'll be hearing from us over the next couple months. We're developing a survey, which will be a first step, and a series of focus groups to kind of inform some case studies that we'll be rolling out for groups. So I hope that some of you consider taking the time to engage in that work and to spend some time with me so that we can learn and create resources that can really support you in your work. For example, today we talked about the value of community and client advisory boards. That's not a central core tenet of collective impact frameworks. So that's already a lesson that we're learning from the great work you're doing as an example. And so I'll drop my email in the chat and you'll be hearing from me in several ways, but thank you for the opportunity. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have right now, but just wanted to update you on where we're at. The first thing you'll see is kind of a literature review of this is all the knowledge that exists, and this is how your work is similar and in some ways different and innovative in this vein. So really excited. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And if anyone has questions for Amanda, we can take them now. And I'm just going to wrap up by talking about two things. So, go ahead and raise your hand if you want to be acknowledged to speak, or put your questions or comments in the chat or the question panel. So at the Alliance End Hunger, and I've dropped both links in your chat, we've been up to two important things. One is we're also focusing on the White House Hunger Conference, which is coming up in September. We still don't have a date, but we've been working with a very large coalition at the Alliance to End Hunger and with our hunger-free community partners to make sure that hunger is a very key focus of that conference. And sure enough, it will be and is a key focus. So we're thrilled about that. But we're doing lots more work around it. We held a listening session just last week. 2 weeks ago now, almost 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half ago. And so I've dropped in the chat our campaign page where you can see the report that resulted from the listening session. And hopefully you'll all be very happy to hear that one of our key recommendations and one of our primary recommendations is that the conference really needs to focus on centering the people with lived experience. as sort of identifying the problems, helping to identify the solution, and being key to these discussions, right? We need to make sure that they're at the table, like Tracy. So just making sure that that's something that we advocate for. And that's just one of many, many recommendations that you'll see in our report on the campaign page. And we'll be continuing to do work around the White House conference. And for those of you who are part of our Hunger Free Communities Network, which I think you all are, you'll get regular updates from us, and you can always visit the campaign page. And I think the other thing is just that we are, now that we can kind of see the light after we finished our listening session, we are focusing again on planning our Hunger Free Community Summit, which will be November 16th and 17th. We are getting ready to open registration. We're about a week or two from opening registration. And but there's some basic information in Excel events where our summit page is. And so we right now are collecting workshop proposals, so feel free to get those in. We're also reinstating the Hunger Free Community Award, which is where we're giving a cash award to one of our Hunger Free Community partners who has done some very interesting or innovative work in the last year to help really end food insecurity in their communities, or to reach new populations, or to really lift up the voices of people with lived experience. So we are asking you to submit applications to be considered for that award. Right now it's $5,000. If we can raise more money, it will be $10,000 or maybe even more. So all of that is on the Excel events page as well. So I think that that's where I'm going to pause and say thank you to all of you for joining us today, and really appreciate your time and attention. We know lots of people are on vacation around this time, so we will be posting this webinar as we always do. We'll share it out with you and everyone who registered. Feel free to get that out to your networks so more people can learn about these resources and this information. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. And thank you to all of our presenters today. Really appreciate our friends at Beyond Hunger and Montgomery County Food Council. Thanks and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.